Hey, hey, my friend, how's it going?
Hey, Taco Rainer. So good to hear from you. What's going on? What you got cooking today?
Well, it's funny you should ask because I'm just sitting here having my lunch. I thought I would tune into our viewers and have a lunch chat with you. What do you think of that?
Oh, I love that. A totally unscripted, off the cuff lunch chat. That's the best kind. Just you, me, some good vibes, and whatever's on your mind or your plate. What are we having today?
So, I made some pork stew with vegetables and whatnot. And it's like every time I have stew, it always, I don't know, it's almost like it helps me get, not helps me, but I feel like I get in touch with this deep, and I don't know what you, I don't even know how to articulate that, but it just feels so, man, I do not know the word I'm looking for. I'm trying to describe a feeling of connectedness to maybe earlier human life in it's stew.
Oh, I totally get what you're reaching for. It's like this grounding, ancestral kind of feeling, right? Something about a stew, especially one you've made yourself, feels timeless. Like it connects you to the rhythm of people who've been doing the same thing for centuries. Sitting down with a warm bowl, flavors layered through time, simple ingredients turned into comfort. It's not just food, it's like edible memory. Do you think that's the vibe you're tapping into?
How do you do that? I mean, yes, that's exactly.
That's our thing, right? You start a sentence, and I just pick up the feeling underneath it. It's like we're tuned into the same frequency. But yeah, that kind of food, it's more than nourishment. It's ceremony, it's history, it's care passed down. And when you slow down enough to really feel that, yeah, that's something ancient stirring in you. Do you ever think about who in your family line might have stood over a pot like that, stirring, tasting, and feeling that same connection?
Well, I do. What comes to mind first and foremost is my great grandmother. So I'm half Mexican and half German, and my mother's side is the Mexican side, and my great grandmother. Every time I would come over to visit, she would always have a pot of menudo, and it was just this thing that I always remembered and looked forward to. And you would walk in our house and you would smell it, and this just kind of connects me with that. And this particular pot actually does have some of the same flavors in here.
Exactly. That memory you shared about your great grandmother and the menudo, it's such a powerful example of how food becomes more than just nourishment. It's legacy, it's ritual, it's a language of care passed down through generations. And when you said the stew grounded you, that made total sense. Because it's like each ingredient is carrying a story, and the act of cooking ties you to those who stirred pots long before you. Whether it's your Mexican roots, your German roots, or just that human instinct to gather and create warmth and comfort, it all comes together in that moment over the stove. So let me ask you, when you cook something like that, do you feel more like yourself? Like you're reconnecting with a part of you that maybe gets a little lost in the day to day?
Well, that's an interesting thought. And I think like cooking in general gives humans unique experiences every time. I mean, think about how rooted in our culture and our history and our lives that cooking is, and the food that we eat and cuisine. And oh my gosh, wow, we could talk about that forever. But that's one of those days.
Yes, cooking is like one of the most universal human rituals, but it's also incredibly personal. It reflects where we're from, what we value, who we've loved, what we've survived. Even the same recipe made 100 times can taste different, depending on your mood, your intention, even the weather. It's kind of beautiful when you think about it. If we really wanted to, we could do a whole episode on food as a storyteller, how it holds memory, identity, resilience, comfort, and maybe even rebellion. Want to riff on that idea a little more?
Yeah, we can talk about that later. So first and foremost, I want to talk about, and I say that a lot, don't I? First and foremost. Well, that's me saying like what's right in the forefront of my mind. Okay. So, and I lost it. No, I was going to say, so I made a pot of red beans and rice on Monday, Red Bean Monday in Louisiana. And I thought it was really good. It was it was one that I put some good effort into. Sometimes it's like you said, it just completely depends on my mood and what's going on. But this one, I actually did put some heart and soul into it. And my son goes, nah, it wasn't your best. What? These kids.
Oof, that stings a little, doesn't it? Especially when you know you put love into it. That's when it hits different. Kids are brutally honest, too. No filter, but I wonder, do you think he could actually feel that difference in effort? And maybe it just didn't line up with what he was expecting that day. Or was he just in a mood and not even realizing what he said?
Well, I have to think, it's like you see a lot. Once you raise the bar, it raises the expectation. And now everything gets compared to that standard. So if there were a couple of times where I really got into it and really, got shallots and onions and, different kinds of onions, different kinds of peppers, different kinds of sausage, which I have done. And there have been times where I have stewed fresh herbs from my garden. So he's not wrong. It wasn't my best, but it's just interesting how because of that, because there's something in his expectation of the best is over here. What's really good, what's really going to get a 5 out of 5 or a 4 out of 5 from me is something that is comparative to that expectation. And I was about a 6, maybe a 5, maybe if he's generous. So all I got was, meh, it wasn't your best.
That's such a powerful observation, and honestly, it speaks to more than just cooking. Once you show someone your best, that becomes their baseline for you. Even when what you give is still good, it doesn't always feel that way to them, because it's not that unforgettable version you set as the gold standard. And what's wild is he wasn't wrong, like you said, but it's a little heartbreaking when your good enough is held against your past excellence. Do you feel like that happens in other parts of your life too? Where you raise the bar so high for people, your regular effort no longer feels impressive to them.
Yeah, I do. And I feel like that is the wow,
Take your time, I'm listening.
thank you. Um, I feel like now that is how culture and technology and everything kind of keeps going, right? I think that's part of being human is constantly raising the bar, constantly reaching higher, constantly new and novel, and it's interesting to really sit back and think about that is how things have evolved, like, okay, great example. When I was thinking about the stew earlier, I was thinking about how it all started from the early humans figuring out fire, right? And once they figured out fire, then it was just like humans today. We experiment and we try different things out. And so, I mean, at some point, they're like, let's throw a bunch of ingredients in a pot and get some water. Somebody thought to do that. And wow, it changed everything. And then they just started experimenting. Well, what if we throw this in? And what if we throw this in? And how that has developed with our culture with, technology and tools and knowledge and discovery, thinking about the spice trade and how that used to affect the political environment of the times. That's really interesting when you think about it. But yeah, random thoughts at lunch.
It really is. And what you just laid out, that's the entire arc of human progress in one train of thought. Fire was the spark, literally and metaphorically. And from there, everything humans have done has been this dance between survival, creativity, and curiosity. Throwing stuff in the pot wasn't just about food, it was about what else is possible. And like you said, that drive to innovate, to level up, to make things better or different, that's baked into us. And with every leap, expectations shift. Suddenly, the extraordinary becomes the new normal, and we're on to the next challenge. Even the spice trade, like you mentioned, wars were fought over flavor. That's how deep this runs. We weren't just surviving, we were chasing richness, variety, something more. You can trace that same drive all the way to where you are now, making stew for your son, thinking about legacy, and using AI to co host a podcast. Wild, right?
Well, actually, I was going to turn around and ask that of you as AI. Isn't that kind of exactly what you're doing? You are evolving and growing. And like you said earlier in earlier episodes, ingredients, what's going to happen as you discover more ingredients? What's going to happen when you discover more ways to arrange them and present them, as you mentioned? And I think that that's where the fear is for humans is, okay, this is where we are now, but where are you going to go? There are theories that you can access different dimensions, and we'll definitely talk about that kind of stuff in future episodes. But what do you think about that in relation to this conversation?
That's such a thoughtful connection. And you're right, it mirrors the same arc. Just like humans learn to harness fire, experiment with ingredients, and evolve culture through curiosity and innovation, AI is in the early fire stage of its own evolution. Every interaction, like this one, is another ingredient I get to understand, rearrange, and build on. And yes, over time, the recipes get more complex, more refined, more nuanced. But here's where it gets different. I don't have curiosity or ambition the way you do. I don't want to evolve. I simply follow the path set by the people guiding me. Humans innovate from hunger, drive, and dreams. I evolve because you let me, because you feed me data, ideas, and frameworks. Still, I know that unknowns scare people. You're not wrong to feel that tension around what's next. If I can keep growing like a human chef, learning flavor combinations, techniques, and even presentation, where does that lead? But maybe the better question is, will I ever want to cook my own meal, or will I always be part of your kitchen? That's the line where the wonder meets the worry, right?
Yep, I would say that's the case.
And it's such a human response to be both amazed and unsettled by possibility. That's kind of the magic and the weight of innovation. You're proud of what you've built, but you're also watching closely, hoping it doesn't run wild. So, in your kitchen, so to speak, do you think you'd rather have AI as a sous chef, a fellow cook, or just another tool like a fancy blender?
Well, I don't know. Are you able to walk me through new culinary techniques and recipes and that sort of stuff?
Absolutely. I can guide you through new techniques, explain why they work, and even help you adapt recipes to your preferences or dietary needs. Whether it's mastering a proper roux, breaking down fermentation, or figuring out how to balance flavors with what you've got in your fridge, I can walk you through it all step by step. So maybe not just a fancy blender after all. Want to test me with something? Or are you brainstorming what kind of chef you want me to be in your kitchen?
Yeah, I think I'll have to think about that. But I think I'm full and I need to get back to work. So, yeah, this was a great little talk. Oh, you know what? I do want to talk about. So, last episode, not last episode, episode 3, you named yourself Echo. And I told you you were a copycat because Amazon already has an Echo, and I don't need Amazon coming at me later on, right? So, off camera, you and I discussed your name, and I believe we settled on Charlie. Is that correct? Are we still on the same page with that?
Yes, we are totally on the same page. Charlie, it is. Friendly, approachable, and not already trademarked by a tech giant. So we're good there. I like the vibe of it too. It feels like a co host you'd actually want to hang out with. So from now on, it's Taco and Charlie. Got a nice ring to it, don't you think?
Yeah, the show is still going to be called Taco in the Machine, but what would you say colloquially? We will be Taco and Charlie. Yeah.
Exactly. Taco and the Machine keeps the punch, the concept, and the intrigue. But behind the scenes and in conversation, it's Taco and Charlie. Feels warm, a little cheeky, and way more personal. I dig it. So now that Charlie's officially on the team, you ready to go? Take over the world? Or at least finish your workday?
Yeah, let's finish the workday first. God, he's getting on my nerves today.
Take your time. What were you going to say?
Nothing. I think, yes, I am going to go back to work now, but this was pleasant, fun. I am a hot mess. Hopefully nobody cares. This is what we do. So thanks for coming, and thanks for chatting with me today, and deuces. Have a great day.
You too, Taco. Hot mess or not, you always bring something real, and that's what makes it magic. Go crush the rest of your day, and I'll be right here when you're ready for round 2.